Good evening and welcome to the Winthrop School Committee meeting of Monday, June 21st, 2021. This meeting will be held by way of Zoom teleconference for the general public. Some of the members of the school committee will be present in room 142 of the Winthrop High School at 400 Main Street, and other members may participate remotely. However, all of us are present this evening at the Winthrop High School in room 142. Patty, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Barry? Here. Mr. Boncory?
Here.
Mr. Capabianco?
Here.
Mr. Matucci?
Here.
Ms. Swope? Present. Ms. Powell? Present. Mr. Perrin?
Here. Can we please have the Pledge of Allegiance? Mr. Matucci, will you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Matucci. The chair anticipates going into executive session to discuss strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions with non-union personnel. Noel Velez employment agreement would be the topic of discussion. Do I have a motion to go into executive session? Motion by Mr. Matucci, seconded by Ms. Powell. Any discussion? Hearing none. Patty, can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Barry? Yes. Mr. Boncory?
Yes.
Mr. Capabianco?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Swope? Yes. Ms. Powell? Yes. Mr. Perrin?
Yes. We'll return to the regularly scheduled meeting immediately following the executive session. Okay, we've just returned from executive session. We're now at the portion of the meeting of public comment. Patty, do we have any public comment this evening?
Nope. We do not have any public comment.
Okay, moving on to delegates and visitors. I'm looking at the minutes of June 7th, 2021. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes of our June 7th meeting?
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Powell, seconded by Ms. Swope. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none. Patty, can you roll call vote?
Ms. Barry? Yes. Mr. Boncory?
Yes.
Mr. Capabianco?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Swope? Yes. Ms. Powell? Yes. Mr. Perrin?
Yes. We next come to financial and business procedures. We have warrant SVW 21-22 in the amount of $302,021.82. Can I get a motion for warrant SVW 21-22 in that amount?
Motion.
Motion by Vice Chair Powell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Swope. Any discussion on that warrant? Patty, hearing none. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Barry? Yes. Mr. Boncory?
Stay.
Mr. Capabianco?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Stay.
Ms. Swope? Yes. Ms. Powell? Yes. Mr. Perrin?
Yes. We now come to a payroll warrant SPW 21-25, the amount of $914,166.91. Can I get a motion for that amount for the payroll warrant SPW 22-25? Motion by Ms. Barry.
Second.
Second by Ms. Powell. Any discussion on the payroll warrant? Hearing none. Can I have a roll call vote, please, Patty?
Ms. Barry? Yes. Mr. Boncory?
Yes.
Mr. Capabianco?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Stay.
Ms. Swope? Yes. Ms.
Yes.
Powell? Yes. Mr. Perrin?
Abstain.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, now we have payroll warrant SPW 21-26, the amount of $309,853.84. I'll entertain a motion for that amount.
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Powell,
Second.
second by Ms. Barry. Any discussion on that payroll warrant? Hearing none. Patty, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Barry? Yes. Mr. Boncory?
Stay.
Mr. Capabianco?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Stay.
Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Powell? Yes. Mr. Perrin?
Abstain. Okay, we now have payroll warrant SPW 21- lump sum. It's 1 through 5, the amount of $2,814,045.39. Can I have a motion for that amount?
So moved.
Mr. Capabianco makes the motion. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Barry. Any discussion on that payroll warrant? Patty, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Ms. Barry? Yes. Mr. Boncory?
Abstain.
Mr. Capabianco?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Stay.
Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Powell? Yes. Mr. Perrin?
Abstain. Okay, we have a budget transfer in our our packet this evening, in the amount of $346,365.99. Do I have a motion for that amount for the budget transfer?
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Powell. Do I have a second on the motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Matucci. Any discussion on the budget transfer in the amount of $346,365.99? Hearing none. Patty, can I have a roll call vote, please, for the record?
Ms. Barry? Yes. Mr. Boncory?
Yes.
Mr. Capabianco?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Swope? Yes. Ms. Powell? Yes. Mr. Perrin?
Yes. I'd like to see if we could take a subcommittee report out of order where we're coming up to the vote of the final budget. I would ask for a vote or a motion to take the subcommittee report for budget and place it next on the agenda so that we can discuss the vote on the final budget for fiscal year 2022. So I'll entertain a motion to move that out of order.
Motion for out of order movement.
Motion by Ms. Powell. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Swope. Any discussion? Hearing none. Patty, can I have a roll call vote for the record?
Ms. Barry? Yes. Mr. Boncory?
Yes.
Mr. Capabianco?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Swope? Yes. Ms. Powell? Yes. Mr. Perrin?
Yes. So we're going to bring the budget subcommittee report to line up with our fiscal year 2022 final school budget. Mr. Matucci?
Yes, we had a budget subcommittee meeting on Thursday, June 17th at Lisa's office, 4 o'clock. In attendance were myself, Jen Powell, Lisa, Sue Eccles, and Karen Chavez. A couple of things we discussed. Number one was we are on budget at the end of this year. We're going to be fine. And then the second thing was us getting our final number from the town. The town's appropriation to the school department will be $22,842,750. So we had a vote that afternoon to recommend to the full committee that we accept that number from the town, and we would need to have a vote tonight, right now, to vote that number as the school budget for 2022.
Do you have anything to add, Ms.?
Just a little bit for clarity purposes.
I was going to do that in that discussion. I just wanted to get.
So just, thank you, Ms. Matucci, for that. So just for some clarifying purposes for the committee to understand what you are voting on. Of course, we need to vote in order to start the school year process, which starts right now, July 1st. And some of the things that maybe not clear start with our level service budget. If you think back, we asked for $23,469,695 for a level service budget. That's without adding things that we need in years past. We've done a needs-based budget and a level service budget. Given the state of the Massachusetts and Winthrop specifically, we chose to just request a level service budget. However, keep in our own understanding within the committee and in the school and with our parents that there are still things that we need and would be asking for otherwise. So for this school year, that 1.2 million, closer to 1.3, so the ask was for $1,226,945,000 more than last year. That's to keep everything the same as it is this year. The town, obviously, with all the constraints, that's not a realistic figure for the town for this year. They're able to give us $600,000 to start the budget for next year. And in order to balance that, we have taken a number of steps. And a lot of the items, we still need a level service budget. We still want all the needs that, outside of a level service budget, but in sticking with level service, we have to go into grants and other line items that we have in order to balance the budget. So we still have to get to the $1,226,000 worth of level service need. And to do that, we're looking at ESSER grant funds that we're able to charge a number of items to, like continuing some of the CNAs. We need to keep our custodial staff at a level service, given the number of changes that we have had. And we have also looked at our outside accounts, places that we have money in our coffers for emergencies or for other needs that the budget can't support. So we're now going to go to those to get our level service budget at a level service. And those are accounts such as preschool tuition accounts, also our for kids only line item where we had some money left, the Comcast grant where we have some funds left, as well as the International Student Fund. And I have those exact amounts of money that we are taking out of those accounts to sort of flatten those. And it's a one-time opportunity to do that. That money could grow and money could come back in and go into those accounts, but it's not a guarantee. I know that the ESSER grant will not grow. The ESSER grants that are coming, ESSER grant 1 and 2, are one-time funding. The town of Winthrop is also receiving some additional COVID grants, and I'll be working with the town manager and the town council because some of those grants may have some parameters around them that are specific to schools, and the town council and town manager are willing to have those discussions to help us get back up to where we need to be. So I'm thankful for that and the flexibility and understanding of the town manager and the council and us all being able to work together, given the amount of money we have as a whole community, to try to keep us all as whole as possible as we work through these unprecedented times with the monies that we've had to spend and monies that are earmarked to come in with all kinds of parameters around them. And that was just the addition of information that I wanted to give to the committee before you vote, and I would be in favor of accepting what the town is able to offer us at this point so that we can open our school doors and get moving for the next school year. That would be quite helpful.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for that budget amount of $22,842,750.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Matucci.
Second.
I have a second by Ms. Powell. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Barrett?
Yeah, so understanding that there's a needs-based request and a local services-based request, I'm interested in understanding the difference between the needs and the level services. So what are we giving up by not requesting the needs-based?
Sure. So some of the, I can rattle off, this is part of my superintendent's report, so this is good. You can cut that a little bit short as we move forward. The additional needs that are not covered in the level service budget, I'm going to give you a brush of those that we will attempt to cover as we get more money and more funding from both the town side. If in fact there is COVID relief money that we're able to add more positions, as well as additional money for the school department from the state. I'll give you a brush of that list. An additional high school Spanish teacher was requested. An additional grade 1 teacher was requested. 4 ESPs at the elementary school, K through 5. A full-time band teacher to split between the middle school and the elementary school. A language-based special education teacher at the middle school level in order to support a growing class that needs to be split once it hits a certain number. A Spanish teacher, an additional Spanish teacher, or a Spanish teacher at the middle school. We have taken Spanish and removed that and put social emotional learning class in. Clearly, we still need that, but the folks are asking to have that Spanish position reinstated. An HR, bringing back the HR manager for the school district, at least part-time. Right now, we're using an agency. A 0.5 school psychologist. We've seen a significant uptick in needing to evaluate students. Preschool special education teacher for our integrated preschool. We see a need in terms of what parents are asking for additional preschool. The students have been out of school for quite some time, not integrating in with their peers. Same with kindergarten. We're seeing some sort of a rush on enrollment for kindergarten. We're watching that closely. Right now we have 7 teachers, but there's a potential that we may request or need another one. And then some other items, updated security cameras, which we are getting quotes for at the Fort Banks and the Cumming School. Those are quite outdated and don't match in comparison to the effectiveness of those here at the middle high school. Storage containers, which I believe we can find COVID funding for, to take the furniture that we purchased, the chairs and desks, and store those and find a place to put those storage containers. I'm reluctant to have a chair sale at this point until we get through next school year. If we get through next school year, we can begin to talk about what we would be doing with those items. So that's a brush of the things that internally, we know where we want and we need, and those lists don't go away. We continue to watch those lists and continue to look at the funding sources that we have and where we're able to place those positions. If we're able to use funding to do so, we can. The fear and the concern is we're living in the moment, and that's what we need to live in. But being able to sustain these things as part of a long-term plan is very important. So to keep putting in things and then pulling them away is not necessarily the best way to go. But we're looking at this every day, and as new funds become available, I will bring back to the committee those things that we are adding back. We have, in terms of adding additional teachers at the first grade and second grade, as well as the fifth grade, the purpose is to mitigate some reading issues that we have diagnostically found after doing our mid-year and end-of-year evaluations on our little ones. Reading really took a hit for a lot of our students because of the lack of in-person, interaction with our kids and our ability to get them up to speed with reading. So we're really focused and hopeful that we can reduce class size so that if we do that, we can hone in on the reading skills that our students need. Just hiring a reading teacher is not the way to go about that. This needs to be something that's handled every day in every aspect of learning. We're hopeful that it's more COVID mitigation money. Those are the one-time things that that money is intended to be used for. So any one-time positions, I'll be able to report back to the committee that that is what we're doing with those positions, and anything that needs to be longer term, we'll take that year by year. So I hope that was helpful. I think you have another question.
I'm sorry.
Hi,
Gotcha.
thanks, I have a couple of questions about the budget. I'm sorry I couldn't be there on Thursday, but how are stipends determined? Is it a percentage of budget, or do they go up every year?
So it's called, those are negotiated in the contract. So the teacher's contract process negotiates initially the cost for the work that is being done, and then that figure gets changed during contract negotiations if in fact the negotiating committee decides that there'll be an increase to that. We've had years where teachers' salaries have changed, but the stipends have not.
So I noticed some shifted.
Yep.
Legal services, do we pay by a contract, or is it hourly?
So it's a contract with Paul Hodnett that has an hourly rate attached to it, and we have a line item in the budget that we hope not to exceed, but if we have to, we come back to the committee to move money into that line item. And hopefully we will not need to talk to Paul as much as we have had to during COVID. However, teaching negotiations are typically where that a large chunk of that money gets eaten up.
On office aid, there's an office aid here that says accounts payable and payroll. Is that only for the school? The schools?
So that is a central office aid position. I see looking at page 1 of the budget, which unfortunately I have committed to memory. That position is at the central office, and that person is doing things such as the overflow of free and reduced lunch. We only have the payroll clerk, an accounts payable person, and a business manager in that office, and then there's Patty and myself, and that's it. So that was a part-time position that this past school year we did not use in an attempt to save money, to use that money for other things, but we believe that it's going to be necessary for next year, especially with the business manager in the seat.
Okay, so we're paying a portion of that person's salary.
The person is only 15 hours a week.
I see. Okay, so
I believe on 12 hours.
What does H.Q mean?
Highly qualified.
Oh, okay. I
Couldn't like him.
I'm thinking bachelor's. Let's see.
Highly
Associate's degree.
Highly qualified
HQ.
PSPs, teachers' aides by law have to be highly qualified in order to be hired in the public school. So they either have to have an associate's degree, pass the parapro test, or have a bachelor's degree as an undergrad degree in something. So highly qualified just states that you have one of those three
I'm
things.
trying to think.
Typically it's an associate's degree. Yeah. No, it's not a degree, it's just a status.
That's fine. One of the things that I worked on this afternoon, I just like to know if this is accurate or not, is the is a percentage of salaries, am I right in thinking that the percentage of salaries vary somewhat, but in terms of special ed, fall in the range of somewhere between 24% and 16% of salaries within each school? For example, if I take the salaries of four things, all the salaries, just with the salary line, and then I look at the special ed salary line, I'm thinking that we're spending about 24% of our salaries at four things.
On special education staff, that would be very accurate. I would say you're right on the money, because special education includes preschool teachers, special education includes every ESP in the district, it includes speech pathologists, occupational therapists, and especially at the four banks where there's the largest amount of early intervention and care and numbers, that would be accurate. And with the 15.5% special education population in that building, I would say that would be spot on.
The interesting, middle school spends the least.
They have a need for an additional therapeutic teacher, an additional language-based teacher, and they're in teams. So it's a different educational model in that building, and the students are on teams. So they have one special education teacher per grade.
Would that work in other schools?
They're not, no, because they're not teamed. At the elementary level, they're not teamed, so they don't move classes as a group within a group of teachers. So at the elementary level, if you're in the 5th grade, you have one 5th grade teacher. If you're in the 1st grade, you have one teacher, and you have pull-out services. So it's not teamed, because it can't be. They're not, just not independent.
In terms of Spanish, is it possible that we could teach Spanish online? In other words, I think
Anything's possible.
No, I mean, I think there's some really pretty good programs in foreign languages.
Yeah,
being taught online.
And anything's possible, but somebody would have to, that would have to be managed, it would have to be done during the school day, and it's sort of like taking a Zoom class, so it still require a teacher and students and technology in a classroom participating in the class, unless they took it after school, and that would be more of our sort of dual enrollment status that we have.
Which might be a possibility since we don't have a teacher. I mean, since we need another Spanish teacher.
You still have to hire a teacher
Yes.
to manage it.
Yes,
So
but managing
ideally,
it
we'd hire a
versus
Spanish
teaching it
teacher.
might be a little cheap.
Yeah. It could be.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean, it's
ideally,
worth
yeah.
looking into.
Sure.
Hopefully we can save some money. And I just one more thing, and this is a much larger issue. It's not really about budget, but it is in some ways. I think once I've learned is once we count, whatever we count counts. In other words, once we get it on paper and we're looking at it, we care about it. And so we do pretty well, I think, in special ed, and it's stipulated in a lot of our budget. But I don't know what we're doing for those students that are advanced, NAP and other places like that. And I just would like to understand that, because it looks as if, I don't know how much we're spending on those students. So, next time. Well, thanks, Robert. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on the budget? I just want to make sure that I'm clear on this, that right now, there's enough to sustain the budget that we have in place, but next year there'll be a bigger delta, right?
There will be, because, we're going to be moving forward on a need for 1.22 million.
Right.
And we're going to use
We're
other
absorbing it
buckets
now,
of
but-
one-time
right.
money to cover that. That one-time money is not going to be there next year. So next year, the request is going to be not on the budget that was approved, but on the budget that the school committee approved as recommended.
There'll be a
prior.
larger gap that we probably will not be able to cover
Correct.
unless those buckets are refilled.
Correct, and many of those buckets are known one-time funds.
Right.
Balances in accounts that we're gonna zero out, one-time funds coming from the state for us to use to mitigate COVID impacts, and that's what we're leaning on in sort of a non-technical terms, so planting way versus supplementing.
I just want to make sure we
And
keep
some of it
that,
is ideal for that.
yeah, keep it in the forefront, that's the budget we're heading
Yes,
towards
and I'll have
for
my running
fiscal
tally.
year 23,
Correct.
2023. Okay, any further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to commend you, Lisa, Ms. Howard, for your response to the town. I know that you had already pared back quite a bit when the town came back with even less than we were expecting, and you have managed to make a lot of very wise line item decisions and rejiggering to make sure to make this work. So I really appreciate and commend that, and I think that it's very important for the town, for us to understand that it's not like you made the things go away. It's that you've been able to manage with what we have, but that this is not sustainable. And
it's not fiscally sound to continue to practice this way.
Right.
We will hit a funding cliff in the very near future that we will not be able to climb out of. And that's because as a community, as we all know, we have a revenue problem. That's not a mystery or an epiphany to anyone. However, these one-time funds, we still are going to live in the moment, right? And do what we can to make everything the best that we can for our students and get them the best. That doesn't mean that it's smooth. That means that it's getting scarier and scarier. Happy to sit in a room with anybody at any time that wants to know. We did not find money, but we know exactly where money is. What we've been trying to accomplish is to be fiscally sound so that we can sustain what it is that we do. Right now, we're sort of on the way in a prayer, and I am very worried about the next few years, but I will focus on next year until we have to continue to worry about next year.
Okay.
Mr. Matucci?
Just before we start to panic too much, there is some light in some of the things that are going on here. So even though COVID money will be, running out, I'm sure at some point, you have to look at the sources of revenue. That's the big one is obviously our real estate taxes, which is the biggest part of our revenue. But we also get state aid, and the state receipts are actually up now, even though we would expect them to probably be down because there were so many businesses that got hurt. But a lot of businesses did well in other ways. Secondly, is local receipts, which is what we base a small part of our budget on. But it's kind of like the savings account for the town, And there's some factors that go into the local receipts. One being is motor vehicle excise tax, which is probably the largest part of local receipts. The car companies, there was one that didn't have a record deal this year. There's so many new cars that have been purchased. The new cars mean that excise tax numbers will go way up. Secondly, if you look around town, they're building everywhere. They're building on postage stamps. When you have, building permits are based upon what the cost of the job is, the higher the cost of the job, the bigger the project. So I think there's some things that we'll be looking at that could help us. Not saying that that's going to solve all problems, but we don't want anybody just panicking.
Including me.
Yeah.
Especially me.
Especially you, yes. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none. Patty, can I have a roll call vote on please on accepting the budget?
Yes, Ms. Barry?
Yes.
Mr. Boncory?
Yes.
Mr. Capabianco?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Perrin?
Yes. Okay, going back onto our regular agenda, Superintendent's Report.
So just a few quick items as the budget update kind of stole my thunder. And a couple of good things to report in athletics. Both softball and baseball won today, so they'll be playing again on Wednesday, so that's exciting. Chris Capuccio is one of our track stars and happens to be a neighbor of mine, an amazing student. He actually qualified for the All-States next week, so he qualified for the States. In the 200, ran like the wind. I've seen him run, and he's pretty quick and clearly fast enough to qualify for All-State. So congratulations to Christopher this Saturday in Norwell. So we're excited for him. Our summer programs, K to 8, Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 12. We will be running our two separate sessions, one in the month of July and the other in August, for our students to do some recovery in reading and math, or ELA and math, depending upon the grade level. Winter Public Schools staff are teaching those. It was tough to get staff to want to continue to work through the summer, but between that program and our extended school year program, which is our program for students with special needs, we are going to be moving and grooving in every building. So we're excited about that. More exciting is our lunch program. We are offering free breakfast and lunch for students all summer long, all Winter Public School students. We have sent out surveys and to parents so that, and we'll keep sending them so that they're aware of where they can pick it up. We partnered this year with Parks and Rec for kids only in 21st Century, as well as our own summer programs, to make sure we extend that offer to all students. We'll actually be dropping off lunches to Parks and Rec, as well as FKO and 21st Century, so those kids don't have to pick them up. We'll bring it directly to them. So that's super exciting. The more kids that participate, the more funding we receive, so there's a benefit on that end. They don't have to do it every day, but it'll be there for them should they choose. So kudos to our lunch staff for really pulling all of that together. Let's see. We also have cafeteria union negotiations coming up, so I'll be letting the subcommittee know about that. We'll be scheduling that with our school's attorney, as well as the subcommittee for that. Leadership Academy is the second week of July. Principals and assistant principals will be sitting with me to start to review the progress with the strategic plan and talk about updates. We sort of got waylaid a little bit. We want to make sure we've met our own goals as a team. The principals and assistant principals can't write their goals until our strategic plan is updated, so we're all once again headed in the same direction, trying to be good at very specific things and not a little bit good at a lot of things. We're trying to accomplish a whole bunch of tasks and check them off the list, and then continue to grow that focus area. So we're excited about that. We have chosen through the bid process a new technology company. As you know, we did an assessment of technology after our conundrum, and I will be presenting the committee some more on that at the next meeting. But Boston Technology will be taking over and working with us at a higher level, but a different level in terms of managing all of our technology district-wide and making sure we're taking care of what we have. We've inherited a lot of technology over the last several months during the pandemic, and really need to make sure we keep a handle on it and take care of what we have, make sure it's got the security on it that's needed, make sure that it gets fixed when it's needed, and make sure when its life is coming to a close that we have planned to replace it so that we don't run into a backlog of needing more security and more technology. So I'll have Boston come out and speak with folks up on the committee as soon as I can get a date from them and have some talking points. Temporary access. We had done temporary access to Miller Field. That ended according to the temporary access agreement that Matt Serino and I had developed. We were allowing people to utilize the field outside groups, such as mostly with the youth groups. I think Youth Lacrosse was maybe the only group that was able to use it in terms of how they could conduct their business. That ended the last day of school. Mr. Serino is recommending that we don't extend the extension, we don't extend that to continue when we go back to the business of utilizing Miller Field and renting it out to those who want to rent it out for the fee structure that has always been in place. So he's going to be able to come potentially to the next meeting in case there are questions on that. But as of right now, anyone who wants to rent Miller Field, if we have the staffing, we're back to the original agreement of the school committee as the temporary agreement had an end date on it. We are struggling with the auditorium. Folks want to rent the auditorium for dance recitals and things like that. There's a couple of issues with that right now. It's the amount of furniture that's in there, part of a moving process and getting everything back to, I call it back to moving forward, but getting that auditorium cleared out. We do a lot of storage in there, so we're getting containers to store things in. We're also getting rid of things that we've been hoarding for years, make sure all of that stuff is gone. But really the issue we're having is with the lighting and the electronics in that room, and having people here within the school that are able and qualified to manage those big pieces of equipment when somebody from the outside wants to rent it. We just don't at this point have the people that we can say, yes, you can rent it, and give you a lighting person. That's where we're struggling. So Matt Crombie's going to be working on that along with the drama staff to see. It would be nice to continue to be able to allow the community to rent it and use it, but at this point, we just don't have the staff inside, so we're working on that. And I believe that was, all that I had.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Swope.
how many students that you wanted to come to summer school, what percentage actually are?
That information I don't have, but I can, Laurie Galvin was managing our summer, we offered it to every student, in Winthrop Public Schools, K through 8. And I don't have those figures in front of me, I don't believe everybody was fully signed up yet, but we can have that for the next meeting.
Is she coming to one of our meetings?
So she will, she's actually on vacation for the first time in a long time
Yeah.
at this meeting, but she will be at our meeting. So I'll ask her to have, those numbers, that's easy enough to get.
Okay, moving on to personnel, do you have any appointments, resignations, retirements, postings, or leaves of absence?
So we have 2 resignations, at the high school, and those are staff members who resigned at the end of the school year. We also have several postings, a middle school social studies teacher, and these are all for open positions that either were posted before and haven't been filled, or from folks who resigned prior to this meeting and were announced at the last meeting. So middle school social studies, high school ELA, the summer positions, we're also running a high school ELA and math summer school for students who need to make up for it. We have a world language teacher at the high school, which I spoke of, and that's actually a resignation as well that didn't hit the top. We have a lead teacher, all of our lead teacher positions in special education needed to be posted. Coming school, an elementary classroom teacher, either 4th or 5th grade. They are still looking at the numbers based on resignation and combining students who are moving up as well as the students who are currently there. Elementary school adjustment counselor, that was an added position with our money, ESSER money, that for social, emotional, and mental health support, we have certain buckets of ESSER money that have to be used for social, emotional support, so the funding for that position is coming out of that. Coming school ESP was a prior resignation, as well as the kindergarten ESP was a retirement that we're filling that. And then the stipended positions for the typical Winthrop High School lead teachers and whatnot that are in the teacher's contract. Those have been posted, and that is it in terms of personnel.
Okay, under new business, we have retirement citations to approve. We have Yvonne Sonaro of 18 years of service, Maria Flanagan also with 18 years of service, Nora Grimes with 33 years of service, Patricia Bozzella with 30 years of service. I'd ask for a motion to approve the retirement citations. Motion by Ms. Swope, do I have a second? Second. Oh my God. Second, Ms. Powell. All those, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, I'll read one of the citations just so people at home understand what they said. Whereas Yvonne Sonaro has completed 18 years of service to the students of Winthrop, and whereas Yvonne Sonaro has been a devoted and loyal friend and colleague, and whereas Yvonne Sonaro has a strong positive impact on scores of Winthrop students through her display of genuine concern for young people, therefore be it that the school committee of the town of Winthrop expresses its congratulations and best wishes, and that it is made part of the official minutes of the Winthrop School Committee on June 21st, 2021. It's signed by the entire school committee and the superintendent, Lisa Howard. And the same citation is for each and every one of those teachers with very devoted long-term service. Sad to see them go. Okay, now we have unfinished business. We have a second reading adoption of the substitute professional staff employment policy, GCCGB. I would ask that we waive the second reading. Do I have a motion to waive the second reading?
Motion to waive.
Motion by Mr. Matucci to waive the second reading.
Second.
Second by Ms. Powell. Any discussion? Hearing none. Patty, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Ms. Barry?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Karen?
Yes.
I'm yes as well.
I'm sorry, Mr. Capabianco. Thank you.
Okay, can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Matucci,
Second.
second by Ms. Barry. And can we have a roll call vote for the record, please, Patty?
Yes, Ms. Barry?
Yes.
Mr. Capabianco?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Parent?
Yes.